I've got fantastic news. The SmartCaster, this right here, arrived, and I'm now getting ready to install it on the Paulk Smart Cart 2. The SmartCaster is designed for the Smart Woodshop and the Smart Cart. The set that I have is an early version, but the final version is on the way to me, and I will do a separate video when it arrives, show you what you get in the box, because that's when these will be available for you to purchase. Currently, the original design, I think these are the R7s. I've been using these now for 6 weeks, going on 2 months. Got 2 sets of these. This set was on the Paulk Smart Cart 2, and the other set is on the Smart Bench on the original Smart Cart. I modified it so those would work with that one. And this is a smaller wheel, a 2-inch wheel versus a 2.5-inch wheel. Even 1/2 inch, man, that's a huge difference. There's also more height when it's up or deployed between the two. So more weight, more clearance, and just a bigger, fatter wheel. It is smoother. Even the lighter R7 version does a great job of supporting the Smart Bench, which has all of the heavy tools on it. It's very smooth. I've been, again, using this now for over 6 weeks. And to retract or deploy, all you have to do is a simple lift, and that retracts them, and then the bench is set down to the other end. We're solid on the floor. And then to deploy them, again, another lift, set it down, and we're back in operation. And I've been finding that on the heavy bench here, like with the other casters, I typically don't retract them unless I really have something going on, because there's enough weight, even though it does move a little smoother than the other casters, it's still a situation where a lot of times I just leave it mobile, because I am in this tiny little space. I'm constantly moving this around just a little bit, just changing the angle to get a long piece to not hit something, or just to move it right to where I'm working, or to give myself a little clearance on the table saw. When I want to have the bench not move at all, I typically just put one end of the bench down for speed so I can quickly deploy and retract. And even though it's, you know, slightly out of level, you don't notice it, and it doesn't impact the quality of your work, because of course all the surfaces remain in the same plane. Now it's time to make the revisions to the Smart Cart 2 so that it will work with the larger SmartCasters. I've jumped ahead and already removed the smaller casters and the blocking and the mounting that they had. And by the way, once I get my other set of the SmartCasters and do them on both of my carts, I'm going to have 2 sets of these, and I'm going to hang on to them, because I'm going to take the Paulk Smart stand-up desk that I've been using for years and years, and instead of having the big casters underneath that I have to lock down, I'm going to redesign it and have these internal so that I can just lift the desk on both ends and have it sitting solid on the floor, but when I want to move it, just pop it up. The SmartCasters, being a larger wheel, have more of a swing radius. I need to enlarge the cutout I have on the Paulk Smart Cart 2. So I've made a pattern, and I am going to just center it over the existing hole, but I'm offsetting it to the inside a bit. This obviously is going to make a little bit of a funny looking hole. Instead of being perfectly round, it's going to have this extra little bit on this end. When I finalize the design, obviously, it'll be just this size set in the right place. The most difficult part of mounting the casters is lining up the 4 holes for mounting with the carriage bolts through 2 pieces of wood that have to line up. I messed up a couple of pieces. I couldn't quite get it right. It was off just a little bit. So I took my time. I got one mounted just right, and then I used that as a layout template to do the other 3. So these holes are already laid out for not only for mounting it to the side, but the 4 for mounting the casters themselves. Now I'll use these 4 pilot holes to get them to line up perfectly in the second piece. I need to take care in mounting the second piece because it is offset to one side on 2 of the wheels and offset to the other on the other 2. I already have 3 done, so I want to make sure the third one is lined up properly before I use these 4 holes to tag into this one and drill it all out. Stick around and you'll see why this one hangs out a little bit on one side. I'm using this Forstner bit to drill a flat hole to countersink the carriage bolt heads. It's important I do this for 2 reasons. One is I don't want the bolt heads hanging on the outside of my bench all the way around, because if I'm working in a client's house and moving my bench around, I don't want the chance of that metal hitting anything and damaging it. The second reason is I don't want anything hanging out. I want flush sides. I'm traveling with it, I'm storing it. I just don't want anything that's going to hang up on anything. When I first started this setup to get it all just right, I laid these blocks out. I knew how tall and how wide they needed to be, and then I set them up centered on the hole, and then cut this block to give me that exact spacing, and that helps me to mount this where it needs to go. And when I was laying out the first caster, I made a block for that held it in place, and then I clamped it, and that helped me get that first set of holes all lined up. I'm using number 8 screws, 1.25 inch. That lets me countersink them into 2 pieces of 18 mil and not poke through on the other side. The issue I want to deal with is deflection, not in the casters, but in the cart itself, in the sides. With the bearing point of the slode being offset from the sides a bit, and then the rotation of the caster, I notice when it's furthest away that I can push on that and get a little flex. That flex is coming in this side and maybe from the bottom. It's not bad. I'm not having any real world issues with it because I'm dealing with it in the original cart that I've modified. What I'm going to do in this case, though, to really make it solid and strong, I'm going to add a strut on the inside of each of these to tie the 2 sides together. To do that, I'm going to use a piece of 18 mil, and I'm going to mount it, attach it with screws to this, screws along the bottom, and then also in the end. So that should give me a nice rigid box. But I don't want to leave it full height all the way through. I think 2 inches along most of the way should be enough. And the reason I want to notch it out is this cart not only makes the benches mobile when we're working with them, but they're also part of the portability aspect, where one bench sits on top of a cart with bigger casters. That's what these holes here are for. And then the 2 benches, the Smart Bench and the Smart Station, go up on edge inside, and then the other cart goes on top, and then all of the accessories go inside. Well, now with the wheels set on the inside, it pushes the benches in a bit. So I've decided to go ahead and notch it enough to give both benches going in kind of together. I'll give a little bit of place so they're not super tight, but that way they'll drop in. I'll still have all of the internal space of the 2 benches to put everything, and then I'll have this outside area that I can, play with for storage and mobility as well. To make this, so I've cut my 2 pieces I want to start with them at the full height and carry them out past the caster. That'll give me some mass there for the load. And I can't use that space anyway, so it's a good use of doing that. So I've cut a piece of 12 mil, piece of scrap I had, to the same as these 2, and now I'm going to I've laid out my cutout. I'm going to cut this out and then use this as a template to cut both of these with a router. I got an email from Bob Bennington. This is what he said. The smaller wheel is the R7. The larger caster is the R8. They're both SmartCasters. The difference between the two is the clearance of the smaller one, the R7, when it's deployed, is 3/4 of an inch. R8 is 1 inch. The weight capacity of the R7 is 125 pounds per caster, and for the R8, it's 200 pounds per caster, or 800 pounds. The design of them was to allow the lifting by 1 inch to deploy the casters and lifting it again to retract them. They don't require interaction as far as like a foot pedal or actually accessing them. They can be hidden even like under a shelf. So you could have a piece of furniture, lift it that 1 inch, set it down, do the other side, you get it to where you want it, lift it up and let it down. No other caster on the market does that. With traditional casters, you need to be able to access the casters, whether you're using a foot pedal to retract or a brake to lock it in. You have to be able to get each caster to do that. His idea was to allow the furniture to look like a traditional piece of furniture but still be mobile. They're fully assembled. They're being used commercially in Bass Pro Shops, theatrical companies on Broadway, furniture manufacturers, and he also says you can ship around the globe. I discovered the R7s and got a couple of sets of those and really liked what it's allowing me to do with the Smart Cart, which I couldn't do with any other caster. And the fact that he was small scale and redesigned or designed a larger, beefier set to work with the Smart Wood Shop, it's just wonderful I was able to get that kind of turnaround. If you'd like to get a set of the R8, the bigger, heavier duty version, then you need to do something. I'm gonna put a link to the website in the description of this video. Go there, look for R8 to order. If you can order it or pre-order it, go ahead and do that. If not, if you only see the R7, don't order these unless that's the size you want. Contact Bob then right from the website and let him know that you're interested and you'd like a set or 2 sets, how many ever you want. And remember, a set is 4. Now I'm going to break down and pack up the Smart Station and then build it up on this Paulk Smart Cart 2, and we'll see how these R8s, these SmartCaster R8s work. That's going to be the most challenging. If it'll handle that, it'll certainly handle anything we do with the Paulk Smart Bench. That being said, I'm pretty confident because again, the R7s, I've been using them for quite a while on this with all this weight. Look how smooth that is. That's way smoother than those heavy duty casters that I recommended and that I've been using myself. If you want to build yourself a smart station like this one, a smart workbench, a smart cart that makes them mobile, or any of the accessories that work with the system, or a smart wood shop like this one, all of those tools, those benches and carts and everything you see in my shop that I'm using all fit in here, and then I can take it to the job site in this 8 by 12 foot trailer. This has been designed over decades and has been really refined. If you want to get any of these detail plans to build these for yourself, you can click on the link down below. You can go and pick whatever plans you want, and there's even packages if you want more than one that'll save you a bit. And then as soon as you make the payment, you'll get an email from us. You click on the link and you can download the plans right then, instantaneously, 24/7, 365. Mahalo.